All right, thank you guys so much for coming out today. We don't do these face-to-face workshops or classes very often. You know, most of everything we do, as you well know, has been in our virtual kind of workspace. So it's great to actually see people in person and feel the vibes in the room. So this is my element right here. So, but it's also I recognize it's a little bit tougher to get people to come and have to be off the work site. So thank you guys so much for making the effort to be here. So I'm excited. If you don't know who I am already, I'm Kim Foss, and I'm the host for our Sharpening the Saw events, and I am very excited today because we have an outside speaker with us today, Miss Angel Wright. And let me tell you just a little bit about Angel. So she is a dedicated mother of 4 sons, 3 of whom are U.S. Army soldiers. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Education with an emphasis in English. She also has a Master's of Education in Counseling and Psychology, and is a 3-time published author and owner of Speak Up Sis. I heard some of you saying you saw the sign where her establishment is. She's a former teacher. She's an international educator. So you guys will have to catch her later and ask her about what that means. So it's pretty exciting. And she's a passionate advocate. She's worked as a teacher for the DoD education activity at the Fort, Fort Campbell, and also Fort Knox military bases, and has served the Army's most severely wounded and injured service members, veterans, and their families as an Army Wounded Warrior advocate at the Portland VA in Vancouver, Washington. In her leisure, she enjoys skating, reading, visiting new places. Today, she's going to be talking to us in this 1-hour active workshop, trying to give you some practical tools for building resilience. And so we probably should have had her come before Hurricane Helene, but I'm sure we can still benefit from all the information and tips that she's going to share with us today. So with that, Miss Angel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to say thank you so much, Kim, for allowing me the opportunity to be in this space. I was telling him when I first came in that I am accustomed to teaching young people. Young people are honest. They tell you how they really feel. If they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they hate you. But grown people, they typically don't tell you whether they like you or not. They just, smile and nod and okay and goodbye. So I'm gonna ask that you put your little people's hats on today and be honest, be authentic, not just for me, but for yourselves. Resilience is a topic that we all need. Many of us are dealing with mental health challenges. Many people are self-medicating. Many people are, medicated by their doctors to get help being resilient. However, you don't necessarily need those types of things when you have learned skills that will help you to be resilient. So today, I am going to be talking to you all about strengthening your bounce back muscle. That's what I like to call resilience. And I didn't come up with that name myself, y'all. Just let me say that. There is a beautiful woman by the name of Lisa Nichols. I'm not sure if you all have ever heard of her. She uses that term a lot, bounce back muscle. And I thought, you know what? That's exactly what resilience is like. If you don't use this muscle, if you don't exercise this muscle, when it is time for you to use it, you will literally fall on your face. So I adopted that. I took it from her, but I wanted to make sure that you all know it wasn't mine. So this is building your bounce back muscle, empower your mind, transform your life. And today we're going to be a bit interactive. This is not a TED Talk. Kind of, sort of, but not. I'm going to ask you to talk back to me. I'm going to ask you to talk to one another. We're going to do some little interactive activities as well. So please talk to me today. The workshop objective is to equip you with practical tools and strategies to build emotional resilience and to help you bounce back from challenges. The topics that we're going to cover today: understanding resilience, the 4 pillars of resilience, strengthening your resilience muscle, and then I'm going to give you a call to action at the end. So what is resilience? This is time for you to talk. I told you we're going to talk right from the beginning. So let's talk about resilience. I would like for you all to tell me in one word, each of you, think about it, and then I want you to give me a word that encapsulates what resilience means to you. In one word. I'm sorry?
We just shouted it out.
You can just tell me.
Strength.
Strength. Okay. Strength, that's a good one. Toughness. Okay.
I was gonna say
Perseverance. Perseverance. Okay. Phonics. Any others? Sustain or sustaining? Yes. Okay. I like that. Sustain was my word for the year this year. Yeah. And I've been using it this year. Yeah. Any others? So we've got strength, toughness, perseverance, and sustaining. Any other words come to mind that you think really houses resilience?
The Bible speaks about long suffering.
Oh, gosh. I love that word. I remember talking to a young man one time and it's interesting because he was married at the time. And he would tell me how much, he loves his wife, and they were their first loves and all the things, and they had this beautiful daughter. She's like 8 years old. We're podcasters, and so I met him through podcasting, and we would talk about marriage and all the things. At the time, well, I'm divorced, but he was married, right? So we would have these conversations in the podcasting world, and he'd talk all about marriage and all the good things, right? And I remember one time talking about long suffering, and his statement to me was he doesn't believe in the idea of having to suffer. Like you shouldn't have to suffer in your marriage. Your marriage should be A, B, C, and D. And I was like, okay, theoretically, it sounds nice. But like I said, when I started that little chat, he was married. And sometimes I wonder if maybe he understood long suffering a little bit. And maybe when he started getting to that place of suffering, he would have been a little bit more resilient. And what's interesting is after the divorce, he's found himself wanting to reconcile. Isn't that something? Yeah. And so before we really get started in this conversation today, understand that building your resilience muscle can help you from finding yourself in situations where you're looking for reconciliation. Think about that for a little while. So let's go ahead and move on. And feel free to ask questions. Feel free to interject if you have comments or anything like this. This is not super duper formal. I would have worn flip-flops. But I was like, don't do that. Don't be professional. And Speak Up says, we are very informal in our conversations. We believe that conversations help build resilience. And so many people are not as resilient as they could be because they don't want to talk anymore. We don't talk to each other. We don't have conversations with each other. We hold everything inside. So we believe that speaking up and speaking out helps to build resilience. Life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient. Steve Marvali. Resilience is something that is built over time. I think in this current generation we're living in, this is my own personal belief, we are living in a more microwavable society. People want instant gratification. No one wants to wait. Hence TikTok. If you create a video longer than 15 seconds, people just scroll by. It doesn't matter if what you have to say is something they need. It doesn't matter if it's valuable or not. If it takes longer than 15 minutes to say, we're not going to listen to it, right? But resilience is something that you constantly have to work on. You're not going to be resilient after a 15-second video. To be honest with you, if you're not strong in resilience right now, you're not going to be resilient after this 1-hour presentation. What it's going to do is simply give you some tools, some tips, some strategies, some information to help you along that way. It's just another tool in your toolbox, but you have to work at it. It's not something that happens overnight. Not only that, when you are wanting to get strong in something or know that you are successful at it, you actually it has to be tested. It has to be tested, right? So I always say, be careful what you ask God for, or whomever your power is, right? If you ask for peace, expect chaos. It's the only way you're going to know that you can operate in a place of peace, is if you're put in chaotic situations. The only way you're going to know that you have a strong, resilient muscle is if you're put in situations that require it to be tested. So just remember that resilience is something that's going to be built over time, and it's something that's going to be tried over time. Resilience is like a muscle that can be strengthened with practice. And so I want to talk about what are some of the traits of resilient people. But before we do that, I want to actually give you a definition by the American Psychological Association of resilience. Resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to extreme demands. One of the words that I love in this, and I love words. You're probably going to hear me say that a lot. I love this word. Flexibility is so important. And right now, while we're even going through our political system stuff right now, people are not flexible. People are not flexible in their thinking. People are not flexible in the people with whom they talk every day. They're not flexible when it comes to learning and adapting. They're just not. People want to be rigid. If you like this person, there's nothing else that you can like. If you like this person, there's nothing else that you can like. And so when you don't get what you want, we realize that you don't bounce back quickly. And there are people, depending on the outcome, who will be stuck 4 years from now where they were the day they heard the outcome. They won't be able to bounce back from whatever it is that they wanted, desired, however they feel, right? Resilience is not just about someone dies in your family and you're grieving, you got to bounce back. You will use resilience, you will use that muscle in every facet of your life. Every piece of it, from grief to voting. Everything in between, children and marriage, right? I take care of aging parents right now. My stepfather, and I hate saying step, my father has Alzheimer's. And my mother has congestive heart failure. And boy, when I tell you, it takes some resilience to live in the house with both of them and make sure they're both well and make sure I'm well and those 4 sons are well. Resilience, you will need it every part of your life. So let's talk about some character traits of resilient people. These are some words that we came up with that you believe encapsulate resilience. But if you are a resilient person, what are some character traits? How can you, what do we know? You can tell a tree by the fruit it bears, right? So if you're looking at a person, you're watching a person's life, and you say, that person has got strong bounce back muscles. What are some traits that you notice about them?
Patient.
They're patient. Compassionate.
Maintain composure.
They maintain composure.
Not easily angered.
Not easily angered. Slow to anger. Any others? Any other traits?
Yeah, they're very positive.
Very positive. Yes, very positive.
Very giving.
Giving. Kind. All of these are wonderful. And I'm excited. I'm starting to jump up because they all connect to the 4 pillars that we're going to talk about today. There are 4 major pillars of resilience, and the words that you all use, you're going to see them within these pillars. Adaptability, optimism. You said they seem to always be excited, happy, in a positive place. Perseverance, problem solving, and self-awareness are character traits, some extra character traits. I would like for you all to rank the above 5 traits in order of importance, 1 being most important, and then tell us why. And I'm going to give you a moment to do this. You can think about it. So these are 5 traits that just about every resilient person will have. And I would like for you, 1 being the strongest, the top, 5 being, not the top. Rank them 1 to 5 in order of importance. And then you gotta be able to tell us why now. You gotta be able to tell us why you rank them in that order. Y'all like, I didn't come here to do all this work. I know what you're thinking. I already know. Y'all said I was coming to listen to the TED Talk. This lady want us to talk. This the us talk room. Yes. So come on, talk to me. Can I get just 2 volunteers? Everybody doesn't have to. Okay?
So ordering them is hard, but
Okay.
the one that came to me as my number 1 was adaptability.
Okay. Tell me why adaptability ranks number 1 for you.
So I think, well, look at the most recent hurricane. I think is a good example, right? I mean, our lives were upended, right? I mean, what do you mean no internet for 10 days? How could we possibly live?
Right.
Right? But like there were folks that, they saw this as an opportunity to start anew.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Another word that I like that I think connects well with adaptability is being resourceful. Being resourceful. When I rode down the street when we could, what I loved seeing was little kids outside playing. I said, I bet them parents taught them how to play out the door today, because there's no internet, right? You can't video whatever you want to do. I saw little kids outside playing, because I know as a parent, at some point you got to do something. You can't just sit in here and look at me all day, right? You ain't got your games, you ain't got your YouTube. Go outside and learn how to play something. And so I thought that whomever those children's parents were, clearly they understand adaptability. Probably latchkey kids. Okay, and which one did you rank as 5th?
As 5th?
Mm-hmm.
It's also a struggle for me, because they're all important.
They're all important.
I ranked problem solving a little bit more.
Problem solving. Okay, tell me why you just had to any, mini, mighty, mo it.
I think the other ones just jumped up a little higher for me. I mean, like I said, they're all important, but
Okay,
definitely
Okay.
adaptability was my one.
I can see that. I could definitely see that. All right. Yes.
So I rank number one is perseverance.
Perseverance.
For me, perseverance is what drives me to do what I do. And my number five is problem solving.
Problem
If I
solving.
can get all the rest of them in order, problem solving will come like that.
Right. Absolutely. And if I used to tell my students, if you don't know how to do a thing, if you know how to find the answer. If you can't figure it out, there's somebody who does. But if you don't have any drive, you're not motivated, you don't have anything that makes you go, if you're negative and all the other things, and you're absolutely forget solving the problem. So I can dig it. So we got 2 there with problem solving at the base, right? If you got all the others, you can find a good problem solver to help you out. Okay. Anyone else want to share before we move on? Okay.
I can share.
All right, go ahead.
I thought self-awareness was not my number one. Just,
I did too.
yeah. I mean,
Great
you gotta be self-aware of what's going on with you, what's going on with the people around you, what's going on in the environment.
How you're impacting others.
It's like, this doesn't happen every day. You know, tree
Absolutely.
coming through my house or whatever that is. So just being self-aware. I'm just my number 2 is optimism. I'm just big on, staying uplifted.
Uh-huh.
Is that your number 2 also?
That was Lenore's.
You gotta say maybe.
Yes.
Just staying positive and
Okay.
optimistic and try to stay away from negative talk and
Right.
all of that. We're gonna make it through. It's gonna be okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Since you gave us 2, did you rank the rest of them? What was your
Yeah.
3, 4, and 5?
Yeah, so adaptability was the next one.
Okay.
It's about being resourceful. Like I had to learn how to build fire.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed Boy Scout skills I did not have.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was cleaning clothes in the sink. And
Wow.
we hung them up the old-fashioned way on the fence.
Really? You didn't string up a line? And
No,
I didn't have a line.
Yeah.
So you had to be resourceful, put them on the fence.
Resourceful. And then the next one for me was perseverance. Just
Okay.
being mentally tough and being tenacious and just pushing through the discomfort and whatever might be going on. And with that, problem solving was last.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Thank you for sharing. Any others before we move on? These are all wonderful. Sounds like y'all are probably resilient people anyway. But it's always good to be reminded of who you are and get some tools so that you can share them with other people when you meet them, right? And have the verbiage and the language to share with them. All right, here's the good stuff. The 4 pillars of resilience. Now you gotta be listening carefully. This is where I'm gonna do a bit more talking to you all. So I'm gonna give you quite a bit of information. If you wanna jot down some notes, it's gonna be a good time to do that. And then after this, you're going to have to understand these well enough to do an activity. So you gotta be paying attention, okay? All right, so let's get it. The 4 pillars of resilience. The first one we're going to take a look at is mindset. And mindset, you all have been talking about being positive, being optimistic, being able to think about things differently, not look at things negatively. A growth versus a fixed mindset is you want to have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is really just thinking, this is it. It's fixed, it's static. Nothing's gonna get better. I don't know if you all have ever heard people like that. Why are we doing this anyway? It's always gonna be terrible. Like, why should we go and do this? It's raggedy anyway, right? They can't see any way of things getting better, improving, growing. It's fixed. But a growth mindset is where you can see the possibilities. You know that things are not always going to be that way. You know that you're dealing with something right now, but it can change, right? You understand that the challenges that you're seeing are really opportunities, right? Yes, there are difficulties. Yes, it may be difficult to go through, but you're looking for the opportunity in that thing. I'm gonna share just an entrepreneurial fact with you all. Most of the major companies that we know and love and have been around forever, many of them actually began during the Great Depression. They took one of the country's biggest challenges, and they actually grew during that time frame. You can do a little bit of research on that, and you'll see who those companies are. But some people may say they capitalize on people's weaknesses. I would think that's a fixed mindset. As an entrepreneur, if your business is getting ready to tank, right? You gotta look at like, what's the opportunity in this? What can I think about what we just went through with Hurricane Helene? You got people who were sitting at home just trying to figure out what they were going to do with their lives, right? And then a hurricane hits. People need trees removed. People need lawn care services. There's so many industries that are going to boom right now that were probably lagging a little bit in our city because the hurricane hit. So those business owners who are able to take that challenge and turn it into an opportunity are operating in what we call a growth mindset. There are three ways of thinking, three tools, if you will, that will help you with a growth mindset. One, reframing challenges. Reframe difficult situations as learning experiences instead of focusing on the negative. Resilient people ask, what can I learn from this, or how can I improve? So something terrible happens, everything is always against me, God don't listen to me, don't hear my prayers. No, what can I learn from this? This happened for a reason. Was it something that I did, a way that I was thinking? Am I connected to people that maybe I shouldn't be connected to? Should I connect to some people that could help me? Look at it as an opportunity to learn from that challenge or improve something. Self-talk, you mentioned this. You said don't focus on negative talk. Self-talk is actually a strategy. Positive self-talk is crucial in developing resilience. We want to replace self-defeating thoughts with empowering affirmations. For example, instead of I can't handle this, you can say, I'm learning how to handle some tough situations. One of my favorites, instead of saying I have to do, I say I get to do. I love that one, especially as a mother. When my boys, my four sons are now young adults. The oldest is 24, the twins are 21, the youngest is 19. I'm an empty nester, they're all doing their thing now. But at one point in my life, I had a 4-year-old, 2 1-year-olds, and a newborn. And a husband, he's like a 5th child. Lord rest his soul. I remember feeling like I gotta do so much. And I was a school teacher. I became a school teacher at 22 years old. I was born to teach, literally. Went to school to teach. That's what I do, that's what I did. And so I'm teaching and I'm helping other people's children. I'm running a girls group, and I'm the church lady, and I'm the mama with the lady with the 4 kids, and I'm Kevin's wife, and I'm wearing all these hats, and I just felt like I gotta do so much, and I ain't got no help, right? But what I have learned 20 something odd years later is that I didn't have to do anything. I had an opportunity, right? I had an opportunity to rear 4 children because I have a friend who's 47 years, amazing. She's a major in the Air Force. She's never been married. She doesn't have any children. She lives in a big, beautiful house. She has more money than I have ever made in any of my jobs. And she's like, you've been married. You got kids. And I'm like, girl, you got this big old house? And she's like, but you've been married and you have children. And so I have learned that I have had an opportunity to do so many amazing things. They were not obligations, right? And then embracing failure. Understand that failure is a part of success. View your setbacks as temporary and know you have the power to improve and try again. My 4 sons were all wrestlers in Washington state placing wrestlers. I have mighty men of valor. They're amazing. I shouldn't have been shocked that they went into the military. One thing their coach used to say to them when they would be conditioning, and just FYI, wrestling conditioning is some of the most difficult conditioning you'll ever do. Football players would take up wrestling in their season because of the flexibility, the gymnastics part. It helped them with their other sport. But their coach would say to them when they were in the thick of their conditioning and they just wanted to really tap out, he would say, eat it up like good cake. Eat it up like good cake. And when I would get home, when they would come home and complain, I say, eat it up like good cake. And what that simply means is, like, embrace this moment. You feel badly, you feel like you're failing, you feel like you want to give up, eat it up. The only way for you to taste success is to eat the failure. Eat it up like it's good cake. I know. We don't want to eat it like it's good cake, but you have to. All right, so that's mindset. Some strategies for connection. Connection is building a strong support system. In this day and age, we have a lot of people who feel like they can do it on their own. This is the me, myself, and I. My brand strategist always says, me, myself, and I is a demonic trinity. And it's this idea that you don't need anybody. I don't need nobody. All I need is me. I got this. And it's just not the truth. Everybody needs somebody, at least one person. Social support systems help to strengthen your resilience. Resilience is often strengthened through your relationships. Resilient people build a support network of family, friends, mentors, colleagues who provide emotional support and practical assistance in tough times. You need a support system. Allow the people in who want to love and support you. Sometimes what I've noticed in my line of work is that people want certain people to support them. And then they crash and burn every time. Believe it or not, when you get into some of the toughest times of your life, the people who will support you will be total strangers. Be some random person that you just meet on the sidewalk and they notice that you look sad and they stop and talk, and the next thing you know, you've got a support person, someone with a listening ear. But if you're expecting your best friend to be in your support system, your best friend may not be a part of your support system. This may not be. If you're expecting your sister or your mother, sometimes they don't have the capacity. Sometimes they don't have the tools. So if you will allow the people who want to be a part of your support to be a part of your support, you'll find that they'll be there when you need them. Ask for help. It is so important to reach out for help to the proper people when needed. Know that you don't have to face challenges alone, and that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. I put emphasis on the word proper. I hear people say all the time that your spouse should be your best friend. My spouse, my husband, my best friend, my man, my best friend, my wife is my best friend. I beg to differ. I don't believe your spouse necessarily has to be your best friend. They can be. But I don't think that your spouse necessarily has to be your best friend. I believe that's a heavy burden to be a spouse and to be a best friend. Sometimes there are things that you need to express, things you need to get off your chest, things you need to talk about that maybe you don't need to say to your spouse. Maybe it's something a best friend needs to hear. Maybe the best friend needs to help you to really sit through it, problem solve it, whatever, before you sit it in the lap of your spouse. This morning, I do have a man, my man, and I've been on this fitness journey in this program, and so the weight is coming off really quickly, and I don't know why, but I was on the treadmill, and I was like, I think this is a good sharing moment. I don't know why I thought that. And so I'm walking, and I said, I just feel like being vulnerable right now. He's like, all right. And I said, you know, this fitness journey is not just about, you know, my wellness and everything and looking good. I think that's all that's wonderful. I said, sometimes I don't feel very confident when I'm heavier. I don't feel like my clothes lay on me properly. I feel really fluffy. If I walk into a room and I don't feel good in my body, I don't show up as boldly and as confidently as I would like. And he said, babe, he said, that's a disease. And I said, a disease? He said, yeah. He said, excuse me, y'all. He said, that's a white person disease. And I said, a white person disease? He said, there's this girl, and when I was in high school, she would eat and she would go throw up her food. I said, I am not bulimic or anorexic, and it's not a white person's disease. I said, that's not what I'm saying. He said, look, babe, you pretty, you beautiful, you smart, you all the things. Like, what else do you want? And I thought to myself immediately, this was not a conversation that needed to be had with him. It just wasn't. Now, if I want a resilient person, we could have had a different kind of conversation. What are you trying to say? I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to, you're not listening. Right? Could have, you know, tanked my self-esteem or whatever, depending on you as an individual. But knowing the proper people to share certain thoughts and vulnerabilities with is important. Super important. Empathy and communication. Strong connections are built through empathy and open communication. Encourage yourself, to communicate openly, which helps maintain healthy and supportive relationships. Here again, you gotta be willing to talk. You have to be willing to communicate with people. And this young lady over here said earlier about being empathetic and compassionate. You've got to not only be able to be empathetic with other people, but give yourself some grace. Extend grace to you, which is sometimes difficult for us to do. So have empathy, have self-empathy, right? And then community and belonging. Feeling connected to a community provides a sense of belonging and shared purpose, which can be a strong buffer against stress and adversity. This is one of the reasons I created Speak Up Sis. Speak Up Sis was created out of my own personal need. I created what I needed. And at the time, I decided to step out on the water in a place of faith. I resigned from my 17+ year career as an educator and advocate. I was divorced at the time, but my former husband and I were like best friends. We should have reconciled, but we didn't because we weren't resilient at the time. And my children were still in school, high school and middle school. My oldest son was graduating from high school. We were in Washington State, but our home is here in Augusta, Georgia. And I decided, I'm just gonna step out, follow the Lord. And I didn't have no savings, I didn't have nothing. And I called my co-parenting ex, and I was like, the Lord said, and I'm gonna do it. He was like, okay. I said, you mind keeping the boys? Cause I might be homeless or something, but I'm okay with that. That Lord say do it. So he was like, all right. School year ended, sent the boys to him, and it was in June. Gave up my house, sold everything that I had, everything I owned. Remaining was in my truck. My oldest son wanted to stay and go to the University of Washington in Seattle, so we stayed there for about 2 weeks. We were homeless. Had a friend that let us stay with them, and then that was June. July 5th, my husband died. I had already let my job go. Three of my children were across the country in Georgia, and my oldest son and I were in Washington. I didn't have a home anymore. I didn't have anything, and I had $1,100 to my name. Yeah. Talk about community and needing that. Long story short, I found myself back here in Augusta, Georgia, and I was grieving. I had this major life transition that didn't really happen the way I thought it would happen. Just a little side note, whenever you step out on the water in faith, just know a tsunami is coming. I promise you it's coming. Don't let anybody tell you that the tsunami is not coming, because it's coming. But when you are resilient, you will be able to stand through the storm. It won't overpower you. It won't destroy you. So I built Speak Up Sis because I needed a community of women who could understand me as a mother. They could understand me as a wife, as a divorced wife who actually loved her, ex-husband who was grieving, who had sold everything. I needed a space for that. And so I created the community that I didn't have and that I didn't see. When you are a resilient person, if it's not there, you have the power and the authority to create it for yourself and for others. Do y'all have any questions, comments, anything? I'm trying to make sure I can get us in an hour. If you have anything to say, feel free. All right, self-awareness is understanding emotions and your reactions. Emotional regulation is one tool. Self-awareness allows you to recognize and manage your emotions. Understand when you're stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, and use strategies such as breathing techniques or mindfulness to calm yourself. I was just telling one of my sons the other day that your strength is not in overpowering other people. You know how strong you are when you can control yourself. And if you're unable to regulate your own emotions, then you got a problem. That's when we see adults acting out like 2-year-olds catching tantrums. I saw a video on social media the other day where some woman stopped another woman in traffic, got out of her vehicle. She's behind her, gets out of the vehicle, knocks on her window, starts. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And let's say we had another person who's not able to regulate their emotions inside of the car, whose window you're tapping. We got a whole situation, don't we? We have an entire situation. So resilient people understand that when tough things happen and they are overwhelmed with emotion, they have learned strategies and techniques. They have tools to help bring that in. This little watch thing right here, this technology is amazing. It allows me to check my stress level. So I can put my fingers, I don't know how they're checking. I'm like, what are y'all checking? But I can do, it'll say, put your hand over your chest or whatever. And then I sit and it'll tell me if I'm stressed. I don't know what it's assessing, but I'm usually in the green, so I think I'm pretty good. But you have to be able to manage your stress. Another thing this little watch does, it will give me, I can set a timer and it'll tell me to stop and breathe. As a school teacher, I realized I didn't breathe all day. And I didn't realize that until one day I got home and was like, and it dawned on me, like, you haven't, technically I was breathing or I would have fallen out, right? But you all understand, you're not taking any deep, healthy, robust breaths in the day. So you're tight all the time. My stress was all up in here. I had to go to the massage therapist every month. Just my blood pressure, I ended up with hypertension at 28 years old, 236 pounds before I was even 30 years old. Why? Stressed out all the time. Stressed out all the time. Not able to regulate my own emotions. I used to cuss like a sailor. Like a sailor. It's not a boastful thing, it's just an honest thing. And I remember when I wanted to change my life, I was like, I can't curse. Blessing and cursing can't come out the same time. And I was just stressed all the time. And my mother looked at me one day and she said, Angel, you might as well go ahead and cuss them folks out. She said, because it's killing you. She said, because you're cussing them out of your heart. It's gonna kill you. And I realized, not at that moment, but later I realized it wasn't that she was advocating for me to start cussing folks out, but she wanted me to understand that I had not dealt with the feelings, the emotions that I was having about people. And so it would be much better for me to release it than to keep holding it in. But the truth about emotional regulation is that you need to know how to release it properly. Knowing personal limits. Know when to push forward and when to rest. Recognize the importance of balance and/or harmony and self-care. Understanding that resilience doesn't mean pushing through exhaustion, but knowing when to recharge. Here's another one I don't ascribe to. I don't ascribe to the idea of balance. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I personally prefer the idea of harmony. Sometimes, and I've learned this as an entrepreneur, sometimes certain things in your life are just going to take precedence. You're going to give more to certain things at certain times. You're not going to have this balance where I give you 25% and I give you 25% and you get 25, you get 25, we got 100 and we zen. That's not going to happen. It can. I'm not saying it can't. But for me, the idea of finding a place where all the things in my life work in tandem, they work in concert. And so if I can only give 5 to 10 minutes over here, it's going to be the most robust 5 or 10 minutes that I can give you. And you're going to feel so fabulous after these 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm going to feel great, but then I may have to spend an hour or 2 hours over here. That doesn't make this any better or any worse, but I'm going to give all that I can give you in the time that's allotted. And when you put it all together, you get this beautiful, right, symphony. So I prefer to think of it in terms of harmony because balance wasn't really working for me. I was not able to give everything equal time to balance out. And so I just learned to give the best of me in the time that's allotted for what I had to do. And what you can't do, you can't do. Just say no. What's her name? Shonda Rhimes. She wrote a book called A Year of Yes, where she told herself yes. Like she was used to telling herself no, so she had a year of yes. And I said, I think I need to write a book, My Year of No. I'm gonna tell everybody no. Can you no? Do you want no? Can I? No. No, it feels so good sometimes. You should practice it. You should be like, no, before they can even get it out. As soon as the phone rings, like, really, hello, no? I wasn't gonna ask you nothing, just in case you ask me anything. Just know the answer is no. What are we gonna talk about today? Right? Understand that no, full stop, full sentence, and it is okay. Know your limits. Recognizing triggers. Being aware of emotional triggers, criticism or rejection allows you to prepare and respond thoughtfully instead of reacting negatively. Self-awareness helps you avoid spiraling into negative thought patterns. Many people are not self-aware. They don't know what triggers them. Just walking around bad all the time. I don't know why I'm mad. What you mad for? I don't know. I don't like her. Why don't you like her? She just look like I don't like her. What? That doesn't even make sense, right? Why? Because you're not aware of what triggers you. You could be talking to someone who, is giving constructive feedback, but if you're used to having a parent who was very critical of you, then someone giving you positive feedback could sound like criticism. And so instead of you being able to receive that, why are you trying to tell me what to do? I did a good job. Can you just say I did a good job? Like, really? Right? Why? Because you're not aware, you're not self-aware of what triggers your behaviors. So make sure that you recognize whatever your triggers are. And then the final pillar is problem solving, approaching challenges proactively. We all put this as number 5, but this is if you had an hierarchy of sort of strengths, problem solvers, this is like the cherry on top. Is it necessarily to be resilient? Not really, but if you can get to a place where you have all the others and you plop that problem solving on the top, you have a perfect Sunday. Breaking problems into steps is a strategy. Approach your challenges by breaking them down into manageable steps. This prevents overwhelm and makes even the most difficult tasks feel achievable. The clothes don't stay on the bed for 2 weeks with me. I know it's like, that's simple. Why don't you just, maybe y'all not like me. If I go on a trip, those clothes are gonna stay in the suitcase for a while, and if I need to get something out, they're gonna be all over the room. They're just gonna kind of stay there, and then it's gonna be laundry day. And then I got like 4 baskets of laundry, and now I got a whole problem, and I actually get overwhelmed by it. And so, knowing myself, when I get into overwhelm, it stagnates me. It actually like stops me. And so now so now I'm sleeping on the clothes. Because all I can do is just lay down because it's just so many to think about. I know, right? It's like, lady, how are you teaching us about resilience? So I have learned to do this in steps, right? Steps. I have had to put systems in place. I only have 1 dirty clothes basket in my room instead of 2 or 3. Because when this one fills up, you need to wash these. But if I have 2, I'll be like, I'm just gonna get another one, keep the room clean. But now I got 2 or 3, right? So I created steps that would chop up the process, the laundry process, so that I could get it done and not procrastinate and walk into a funky room. Solution-focused thinking. Instead of dwelling on problems, focus on finding solutions. Ask yourself, what can I do to improve this situation rather than getting stuck in negative thinking? Flexibility in your thinking. Sometimes the first solution doesn't work, so be open to adapting and trying new approaches until you find what works. I think this is a really, really good one when it comes to marriages and relationships. I have a really good friend. I used to tell her all the time, you're emasculating that man. Like, let his idea fail. You know it's gonna fail. Just let him fail. Once he busts his head open in it, then he's gonna come back. Let him think it was his decision to do what you wanted to do. He's gonna come back to it. But you've got to be willing to allow some other opportunity. Like, let him try it. Let him try his idea, right? Try your idea. But you've got to be willing to actually be open to other things other than the way you think. You just might be surprised his idea just might work. And you'll realize that the way you wanted to do it and the way he wanted to do it both work. They just work differently. Right? So be flexible in your thinking. Creative thinking. Think outside the box when faced with a challenge. Find unconventional or innovative solutions when traditional methods fail. I think we all experienced that with Helene. Learning from mistakes. View mistakes as valuable lessons. Reflect on what went wrong and apply those lessons to future situations to avoid repeating errors. I believe many of us find it difficult, to learn from our mistakes. When you see people going through the same thing, well, the Lord said He gonna forgive me 7 times, 77. But really, do we want to make that mistake 77 times? You can learn from it by the 3rd time, right? And then like mess up on some new stuff. It's okay to mess up, just mess up on something new. All right? So now, enough of the lecture. Now it's time to work a little bit. Do y'all have any questions, comments, thoughts about anything that has been shared thus far? No? Okay. Here, I'm gonna come back here so you all can see these. You don't actually have to write. I just want you to be able to see them. So these are those, these are going to assess whether or not you understand those 4 pillars. And I have 6 scenarios, and we're gonna wrap after this. We've got 6 scenarios. And you're going to read, we're going to read through the scenarios and determine which of the 4 pillars you would need to utilize. Which of the 4 pillars you would need to utilize for that particular scenario. So, will someone please read scenario 1?
You've just received feedback from your boss that your recent project didn't meet expectations. You feel frustrated and discouraged. What's the best resilience strategy here? I would put self-awareness.
Okay. Tell us why you would choose self-awareness.
Because you wanna talks about you're feeling frustrated and discouraged. Why is that?
Okay.
So just
All right. Would anyone else choose anything else?
I picked mindset.
Mindset? All right, why?
In that situation, you feel like you got negative feedback, but
Mhm.
if you take that and turn it around and flip the script, okay, now I have an opportunity to do it differently and I know the direction.
All right. All right, that's a good explanation. Just let me say there's not necessarily a right or a wrong answer. I do have an answer that I came up with, and I will share that with you. But as long as you can back up what your answer is and it's solid, we good. Anyone else want to share? So we've got self-awareness and we've got mindset. Okay, so I chose mindset because this situation calls for a growth mindset where you view the feedback as an opportunity to improve rather than a personal failure. By focusing on learning from the experience, you can bounce back with more determination. Okay? All right, so let's look at number 2. Somebody want to read number 2?
You've been facing personal challenges and you're feeling isolated and overwhelmed. You're unsure how to handle it all. What is the best pillar to rely on in this situation? I guess self-awareness.
Self-awareness, okay, tell us why.
I guess you need to, I would just kind of go through and look at it myself as far as what's causing me to feel overwhelmed, why am I feeling isolated, I guess see my part in it.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Anyone else want to share?
Connection.
I think there's a key word.
Connection.
Okay.
Just because if I'm facing challenges and I'm feeling isolated, I'm going to want to sort of connect with somebody to sort of get their view on what it is I'm facing.
Okay. Anyone else want to share? Okay. So a key word in that. So I think we can say self-awareness is probably a really good place to start with just about any situation. But for this particular scenario, if you look at the word isolated, anytime you are feeling alone, you're feeling like you're isolated, you're feeling like even if you feel like you're being ostracized, right? A good rule of thumb is to connect, because you are not by yourself and you don't have to be isolated. But if you're feeling isolated, you probably need to get around some people, right? All right. Scenario 3.
Let me just say one thing. We're at the top of the hour.
Where are we? We're at, oh,
Yeah, so if
I got you.
Yeah, if folks have to leave or whatever.
Yes.
You know, I know some people have to get back to their
Absolutely. And thank you for
Please feel free to do
the time
Be
check.
a break.
So I'll go through these so that we can wrap. All right. So for scenario 3, that one, you're in the middle of a heated argument with a close friend. Emotions are running high, and you feel like you might say something you'll regret. How should you handle this? Self-awareness, right? Recognize your emotions in the heat of the moment. It allows you to step back, cool down, and avoid saying something harmful. In scenario 4, you've been assigned a difficult task at work, but you're not sure how to start. It feels overwhelming and you're worried you won't succeed. What should you focus on first? Problem solving. The situation requires a practical approach. Break down the task into smaller, manageable steps and tackle it one at a time. All right. 5, you've been rejected for a promotion that you worked hard for. It's disappointing, but you know it's not the end. How do you keep yourself motivated to continue pressing? Mindset, right? You want to see the setback as a learning experience rather than a failure. And then scenario 6, you're dealing with multiple challenges in your personal life and you start to feel physically drained and emotionally exhausted. You want to stay strong but aren't sure how to recharge. What's the best approach? Self-awareness. This scenario calls for you to recognize the toll that stress is taking on your body and mind and identify when to take a break. These are some techniques that you can use to strengthen your bounce back muscle. Positive self-talk. You replace the negative thoughts with empowering thoughts. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with affirmations. I am statements are really, really good when it comes to positive talk. If you're feeling unattractive, if you're feeling like, don't nobody think I'm pretty, you may want to stand in the mirror and tell yourself, I am beautiful. I look good today. I love my hair today, right? Replace the negative self-talk with positive talk. Breathing techniques. Stopping for 60 seconds and sitting quietly, inhaling full breaths and exhaling those full breaths for 30 seconds to 60 seconds is just one type of breath technique. Gratitude journaling is one of my favorites. Daily writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. I actually do this, and you'll find that, or you could create a gratitude jar, and every day write something down on a slip of paper that you're thankful for in that day, and by the end of the year you have 365 things that you've been grateful for, right? And you can recycle them all year. The next year you can kind of pull out of the jar to remind you on those days when you just can't seem to find anything to be grateful for. These are just 3 techniques that you can use, right? Choose one resilience building strategy you will commit to practicing over the next week and write it down and whatever you have there to hold on to. And the call to action that I have for you is to not just take this information as something you just listened to today, but actually put it into practice. Even if you are a resilient person, you will become a more resilient person. You'll become even stronger with your resilience muscle if you actually practice these techniques, strategies, and tips. So make sure, write down one that you're going to actually use, and then next week, be conscious and cognizant about actually using that technique. Thank you all so much for your time and for your ears today. I pray that this has been helpful in some way. My name is Angel Charmaine, and I thank you.